Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? Good. I'd like to welcome all y'all to the meeting tonight. I'm Roy Warwick. I'm chair of the Brunswick County School Board. And first of all, I'd like to say that I'm glad you're here, but only not am I glad you're here, I thank you for being here. Because I think one of the most important things we can do is the education of our young folks in this county. And, you know, y'all can get to see a possible change in what our school system may look like. So again, because of that, I really thank you for being here, you know, to hear what your concerns of the citizens, or if you have any concerns, you can pass them on. So again, thank you. I would like to take a minute and recognize my fellow school board members. If y'all would please stand for a minute, I would sure appreciate it. It is an honor for me to serve here. I thank y'all for being here tonight. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Christy Somerville Legette, but I would like to say one thing to her before we get started. Happy birthday. And thank you for taking your time. I think it's probably a superintendent's dream to spend their birthday with the school board. So congratulations on that. And just something for you and your husband to share tonight when you do get home. And thank you so much for what you do and for what you do for us, but what you do for the students of this county.
Thank you.
I will now turn over to her and she will go through the process and the presentation for the night. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, good evening, everyone. The board and the steering committee have been working through this facilities process for the last 3 years. And the purpose of the facility study is not only to provide shelter due to aging facilities, but to provide a learning environment that is conducive to 21st century learning. Currently, our schools are accredited, accreditation waived, like the remainder of the state due to the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we did have some schools fully accredited and others that are accredited with conditions. I wanted to clear up because there was some confusion about us being unaccredited, and none of our schools are unaccredited, and that was even prior to the pandemic as well. The consolidation and construction of a new facility will provide opportunities for collaboration, shared learning spaces, and opportunities for new instructional programs. In addition, Brunswick, along with the nation, are facing significant teacher shortages. The consolidation and construction of either option that's going to be presented tonight will provide us with an opportunity to pool our personnel and our instructional resources to benefit all of our students. And we all know that exposure and access are the greatest equalizer for students. And the facilities process has reaffirmed that Brunswick County public school students deserve much more. So tonight you'll hear a presentation from Mr. Josh Bauer, our architect from Crabtree, Robar and Associates. And at the conclusion of his presentation, the public will have an opportunity to comment, and it's actually going to be at the microphone where he's standing, and provide comments and questions. We're going to gather all of your responses. So if you have not sent questions to Mrs. Clary or you'd like to sign up, if you could sign up with Ms. Clary here, you can wave your hand so they know who you are. You will have an opportunity to come up and speak for 3 minutes. You'll see we'll have a timer on that screen. Sometimes it's a little easier. I know when I'm speaking to see a visual and you have the countdown. We are going to have to limit it to 3 minutes per person. So please don't think that we're being brash or rude when we say thank you, but we want to make sure that every individual has an opportunity to speak. And as you hear the presentation tonight, and there's something you still have a question about, submit it. We're going to have 2 more community meetings next week, but we aim to answer every single question. So what we'll do is gather these questions from tonight in the comments, and we'll provide responses that will be on our website. We'll send out a messenger alert by the end of the week. Mr. Bauer and I are going to work on getting your questions answered no later than Friday. We'll post that and send that out. We'll plan to do the same thing after every community meeting. So again, it's going to be 3 minutes to speak. No exceptions with that. We have to adhere to this timeline. We want to make sure it's fair to all involved. And Ms. Clary will go over these guidelines again. We also will have a survey that will be located on the division website to gain additional feedback, and we will send out a messenger alert and information using social media to gain your feedback on what you hear tonight. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Bauer for his presentation. I'll clean it off.
Good evening and thank you all. As Dr. Majette said, I am Josh Bauer with Crabtree Warbon Associates. I'm a partner and senior project manager. We are going to be presenting tonight on these two screens. So if anybody wants to move forward so that you can see the screens better, feel free to. So we're going to try to keep the presentation to about 40 minutes tonight. And then, as Dr. Majette said, we're going to have some opportunities for some comments and questions at the end. Okay, so as Dr. Majette said, over the last 3 years, the steering committee, the facilities committee has been working very diligently. We've had multiple meetings together to talk about the options, and the two options tonight are the two options that they wanted to present to the community for discussion. The first option would be to construct a new pre-K through 6th grade elementary school. We're going to talk about some site options. One of the site options, actually two of the three site options, are to place the new elementary school located roughly central in the county at the high school campus, so that we can have pre-K all the way through 12th grade on one campus. This option would close all three of elementary schools. This option would also close the middle school and construct a 7th and 8th grade addition to the high school. So at the end, after all the phasing is completed, there'd be a new pre-K through 6th grade one building, consolidated building. There would also be a 7th through 12th grade high school, and then the tech center. So this option would take and reduce the total building count for the school division from 7 down to 3. And this option would also close the current school board office and look to construct a new school board office freestanding building at the high school campus, or put it as an addition. So pros and cons of this option. Some pros is this would consolidate all the buildings onto one campus, all the educational buildings on one campus. This would reduce the total amount of buildings, of educational buildings, from 7 to 3. The 7th and 8th grade addition at the high school would permit a more clear separation of the 7th and 8th grade core classes to the 9th through 12th grade classes. Construction phasing, let's talk about that for a moment. The positive of constructing a new elementary school, whether it's on the high school campus or an adjacent campus, would allow us to construct a new building, to close the 3 elementary schools, consolidate into one building. So if you for a moment think about at the end of the semester, teachers could box up all their goods, and then over the summertime we would relocate all of those boxes to the new school building. So when students come back in the fall, both the teachers and the students would be in the new building. Also, we can construct the 7th and 8th grade addition at the high school with limited amounts of educational disruption, along with doing some limited renovations inside the building of the spaces that were not renovated back in 2004. Educationally, having all of the elementary classes in one building allows really two things. One is that the teachers can have more collaboration. So imagine having all the kindergarten, all the 1st grade, all the 2nd grade teachers being in one building. There's a lot more opportunity for collaboration, even on a daily basis. The other positives is that we can kind of level out and have equity amongst the class sizes. So instead of having 13 in 3rd graders in one building and 21 in another and 28 in another building, we can kind of level those off so that we really have a equal student-teacher ratio across all of the buildings, which is also a very big positive. The other positive of having the pre-K 6, the elementary school and the middle school also at the high school campus is allows all the students to partake in that athletic complex, whatever that complex looks like. So whether that's on a daily basis with the students from phys ed being able to go out and experience the facilities, or having special events that pre-K all the way through 12th grade, everybody can enjoy the athletic complex. The cons of this option is that we would be closing the 3 elementary schools and the middle school, and those buildings could either be repurposed within the school division, or they could be turned back over to the county as part of that effort. So we're looking at cost. So the cost of both options 1 and 2 are roughly the same, looking at about a $43 to $48 million for the school projects. The one thing that we do want to point out is that as we looked at all of the options that were, is that we also wanted to not only examine the cost for construction, but also what are those extra costs? You know, the cost for operation and maintenance, the cost for energy, for fuels, you know, the cost for transportation. We want to kind of look at all of those pieces as we're looking at all the options. So we're giving you an apples to apples comparison. So looking at a new facility, you're going to have, you know, for at least the first 10 years, even in the first 20 years, you're going to have significantly less maintenance, including an operational costs because you're going to have a new facility. While your maintenance department has done a fantastic job of maintaining your buildings with the dollars allocated, all of your buildings are aging. Your elementary schools and your middle school are a lot of the elements are going well beyond its lifespan. And if you'd attended any of the previous facility study meetings, there's millions and millions of dollars of cost that is going to have to be spent on these buildings to continue to operate them. HVAC replacement, windows, doors, communication systems. The majority of systems are well beyond the useful life and have to be replaced. So when we're looking at the operation maintenance costs, I said the fuel efficiency of the buildings, comfort control. For those of you that are teachers, I particularly love teachers. My wife's a teacher. We want to make sure there's comfort there, not only for yourselves, but also for students. So that when students are not comfortable, it's harder for testing. It's harder for them to pay attention. You know, so what can we do to make sure that the technology and the comfort level of the buildings and the colors, that everything is appropriate for an elementary and a high school to make sure that these facilities are the best that we can provide for Brunswick County Public Schools. So the reason we're talking about the utilities and those costs is that those are real expenditures that the school division pays year after year. And what we're projecting is about a $1.2 million savings going from your current buildings and consolidating down to lesser buildings. About a $1.2 million of savings per year, especially for the first handful of years. Now, as the building ages, you're going to have maintenance, you know, and so that curve of cost will start to slowly decrease as the buildings start to age, and that there are maintenance costs and operational costs. But there's going to be a significant amount of savings for the first several years, you know, and that needs to be part of the equation as we're looking at these options. So I said for this particular option, we're looking at about a $1.2 million savings by consolidating your buildings when we're looking at operations. So with a new elementary school, and really the site plans work for both options 1 and 2. Some nice things about when we're able to construct a new building on a new location is that some really great things we can do is one is create a very defined parent drop-off and bus that we can have a clear separation. What do we know? Bus drivers are awesome. They're fantastic. Parents, parent myself, but we're not the best. And so the challenges that we have on the site are often, you know, the parents going where they're not supposed to be going. What we're seeing over time is that when we were kids, parents didn't drop off their kids to school. Now what we're seeing is more and more parents are dropping off their students and picking up their students. We want to make sure that we have the appropriate size parent drop off so that we can safely get the parents off of the street, you know, in that queue line, and have a clear separation between the car drop off and buses. We can also have the adequate number of parking for teachers, for staff, having the right locations. We can also have a separate PK and K playground from the remainder of the elementary, and we can also include athletic fields. So we're going to talk about 3 different options for the site. 2 of them are at the high school, and 1 of them is actually here at the Totero site. So looking at the building, and I'm going to keep looking over here because it's closer, is that when we're looking at a new elementary building design, some things that we're able to do with that is to create a very secure front entrance. That where the visitor comes in, they have direct access into the admin suite. That is a kind of a person lock. So the only option that the visitor is going to have is to be able to come in the security vestibule, talk with the receptionist. If appropriate, then be allowed to come into the lobby space. Otherwise, that person can drop off their bag, pick up their child. They don't necessarily have to come into the admin space. and have a safe separation between where parents can be at and where students can be at as they're coming into the admin space. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner, we have the admin, which could be comprised of the administration, guidance, and nurse suites. A couple things that we can do is put the shortest legs near the most amount of activity. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the pre-K and K, right there by the administrative suite, right by the front door. The building is separated. Let me show you. So the building is separated by a main street. So your commons area spaces, your gymnasium, your cafeteria, your art, music spaces are on one side of the space, and the classrooms are on the other. It's separated by this main street, and Main Street has three kind of nodes, which are the student collaboration areas. And these are the areas in green. These are spaces where multiple classrooms can get together, along with having a learning stair. And what we'll do is when we get into some of the images you're going to see is what is a learning stair? What does that look like? What is a collaboration space? Talking about flexible furniture, not only in the classroom, but also in these collaborative spaces where multiple classes can get together. We particularly like this model, and we've used kind of this concept for several elementary schools. The elementary school is a child's first opportunity in education. This is their first experience, and we want that to be the kind of the best start. What can we do to make the spaces comfortable? What can we do to make welcoming? Have great colors. Have flexible spaces where students can have different types of learning. With this model, a handful of schools have done different themes. So the older students and sometimes the younger students get to pick a theme, a circus theme, and every year this main quarter can have a different theme and be kind of celebrated in different ways. Whether that's based on history or whether it's based on something just fun. But it's an elementary school. Let's have fun with it. So each one of the classroom wings are dedicated to a grade. So we have first grade, second grade, third grade, and the smaller limbs on the lower floor. And we'll show you the second floor in a moment. The gymnasium has a shared stage. So the stage actually has two different openings, one that goes towards the cafeteria and one towards the gymnasium. This allows the most amount of flexible space that if you want to have a large event or a small event, if there's an award celebration and the parents are all in the gymnasium, the students can actually be fed from the back of the cafeteria, up onto the stage. Or if you want to have maybe a little bit more of an intimate event, it can happen inside the cafeteria with, having a wonderful play that's based around food, and maybe it's a dinner theater with the students, so with the stage opening on both sides, you can have different types of assemblies and different types of events with that stage. This is a collaboration. Toilet rooms, toilet rooms would be dedicated to each one of the classroom wings on each floor. So that the littlest legs don't have to travel as far. And then if you look at the orange spaces, these are intentionally designed as flex spaces to make sure that we're not designing the building just for today's numbers. And we're designing that we have the flexible spaces in each one of the corners that can be turned into classrooms as population grows here in Brunswick County. So looking at the second floor, directly above the administration, we have the media center. We have STEM classrooms, science, technology, engineering, and math, for that, for the students to kind of have that little bit more of an event. So we talked about art, we talked about music. And then I said, we have 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, along with those different types of learning labs with small group instruction and that learning stair. So what could classrooms look like? Daylighting, different types of seating, both fixed and non-fixed storage. Different types of lighting. What's fantastic about LED lighting, which is we're putting standard in every single school right now, is there's a lot of flexibility. It's dimmable. You can turn off the front and the back of the classroom. Technology, we want to make sure the classrooms have a lot of technology in them. What we don't do with any new school is to limit the ability for teachers to teach or students to learn because the building inhibits that. So we want to make sure that when we're designing this, is that we're creating the most amount of flexibility for the teachers and the most amount of flexibility for students. So you can see all these images, with lots of daylighting, the ability for, but also daylight, but also control. So the screens come down so that the teacher wants the room to be just a little bit darker. Sun's coming in, and they want to make sure technology is able to be seen. That control is there. Desks that have casters in the bottom to be able to move desks around. Different types of shapes of desks. We talked a little bit about those flexible learning spaces. So here's an example of a flexible learning space where you can have multiple classes in at one time. This could be open up to the quarter, or it could be an area where you close off so that they can, students could be a little bit more excitable in their spaces. You see lots of technology, different types of tables and chairs, different types of seating, both flexible seatings with backs, without backs. This is a learning nook, where the front part of it is kind of like more of like a couch, and the back is seats that way the students who want to sit up high, or they want to sit down closer. There's flexible learning environments. Just more examples of what these spaces could look like with direct access to the quarter. The learning stair. A learning stair we found to be a fantastic opportunity for larger groups. Instead of doing a classic auditorium where there's full seats and kind of an enclosed area, this is a space where you can get multiple classrooms together, so they can all be on the stairs, and it also gets you from the first floor to the second floor. It becomes, it's not only become a point of transportation, but also so you can have the learning stair as a place where multiple groups get together and be able to learn. Maybe a kindergarten and a sixth grade, spend some time together to do some mentoring, happens inside here. Or multiple third grade classrooms get together and talk about science. They do an assembly here where they, a smaller assembly where they focus on one specific type of program. So here's just more examples of different types of learning environments. This is a media center, which used to be called a library when we were kids. There's both types of different types of books, along with different types of seating and technology in all these spaces. What can we do to maximize our learning potential? The quarters are no longer spaces just to go from point A to point B, to go from your third grade class to get to music, or to go to lunchtime is a quarter. What we've been doing is widening up the quarters to allow the ability for tables and chairs to be in the quarter space. That is, we're doing collabs, we're doing different types of events. That collab teacher can take a small group out and do some learning right in the quarter that's visual, so that way you still have that visual connection. But the quarter is designed specifically to be able to have those tables and chairs, those flexible learning environments there, along with the ability to have enclosed environments. So if the activity may be have a little more volume, that you can go just behind the window wall and be able to have education behind that window wall in more of a private, quiet environment. Again, you can see in this image, all the chairs have rollers on them to be able to move around. Whiteboards, also, so that each environment is going to be flexible depending on the size of the group and how that teacher wants to teach and how the students want to teach. We're finding more and more the students are teaching other students, whether that's doing a connection with something with Google, or simply that some students, can shine and what better way is from one student to be able to teach another student what they just learned on their terms. Outdoor learning spaces. The more surveys that we do with the community, with the teachers and the students, having spaces that are safe, the teachers can go outside, whether that's opportunities to have STEM classes outside or science classrooms, or a teacher just wants to go outside and spend an afternoon in a learning environment. We've been doing outdoor screens, screens that they can actually show the same presentations that were inside, but they're designed to be weather resistant so that way that they're not harmed by the weather. But the goals here are to have environments where they can have some shade, they can be enclosed so that way they can that outsiders can't come in, the students can feel safe, and teachers can feel safe, but they're still visual from the inside. This is an example of one of those the back-sided stages where you can see both the front and the back with that partition. This is an acoustic partition that's also solid, that balls can bounce off of it, they don't get hurt. But I said you can open up the stage to either side, either that's in this case is the gym side or the cafeteria side, and make those stages as flexible as possible. It's a theme, flexible. Here's some examples of media centers, those libraries, so we can have fun, have round different types of ceiling and seating. This is an example where we turn a tree upside down and we use the vinyl flooring. It looks like a tree literally got turned upside down, and the flooring is the top of the tree. Just more examples of media center with that flexible type of seating and lots of daylight in the spaces. So as we go from the pre-K 6 elementary to the high school, We are looking to do a small 7th and 8th grade addition. And the focus of this is to get the majority of core classes for 7th and 8th grade in kind of one core area. So what we're showing here is a small addition in a grass area. Those will affect a handful of classrooms on the inside of the building. As it stands, because the current high school has capacity to fit just a handful of 7th and 8th grade classrooms. These are the most central classrooms that we can locate that are in between your cafeteria, your gymnasium, your media center, and your auditorium. So this would allow us to have, well, there's going to be shared activities. Your music rooms, your gyms, your cafeteria are going to be shared from 7 to 12. The core classes, your English and your social study classes can all be, for 7th and 8th grade, can be in one area. So the majority of time the students are spending in one wing. So as we look at option 2, I promise I'm not going to go through all that again. With option 2, we're looking to go from, instead of having a pre-K through 6 building, we're looking at a pre-K through 8 building. So what that means is we're going to have pre-K all the way through 5th grade, kind of in one area. And then we're going to have a wing on this building that is going to house 6, 7, and 8. So essentially what it is a school within a school concept where the 6, 7, 8th grade can have, the majority of their core classes are all going to be in one wing, including their everything from science to English to social studies. All those classes are going to be in one wing. STEM classes, and we can even have our own administration for 6, 7, and 8. So just like with option 1, this would close all 3 of the elementary schools and the middle school. The high school and the tech center, instead of receiving an addition at the high schools and tech center are going to receive only capital improvements. So as things break over time, they will be repaired. But there is not going to be any major construction projects at the high school with this option. So what we're doing is as we close the elementary and the middle schools, all of those students will be going in new classrooms at the new pre-K grade. So pros and cons, just like with option 2, or I'm sorry, option 1, we're going to be consolidating all of the buildings. If the new building is constructed at the high school, all the buildings will be on one campus. Reducing all the buildings from 7 down to 3. Construction phasing is similar to what we talked about, is that we can build a new building. And then as the building is operational at the end of the spring, going into the summer, teachers would box up their stuff, and when they come back in the fall and get ready to, they would take and go from their old building to the new building and be able to set up in their new classroom before students come in the fall. Just like before, the larger classes, larger classroom sizes, not larger class amounts, but larger classrooms will permit the ability for having more space. Not for that collaborative type teaching, whether it's instead of having fixed or modular furniture in there for storage. This will allow us to have the ability for teachers to be able to have more collaboration amongst the grades, because everybody will be together in one building. And more equity amongst the class sizes. So that way, all the 3rd grades can be leveled out. There may be 1 or 2 difference, but not some significant difference you're seeing between your elementary schools, between 3rd and 2nd grades. Cons is that we close the 3 elementary schools and the middle school will be closed in this option. And in this option, the high school would only receive capital improvements, and there would not be any renovations of the high school in this option. So just like before, the cost range is about $43 to $48 million, looking at all of the projects that we're proposing, including the new elementary school, which is the pre-K-8, the high school, the tech center would be capital improvements, and we look at the school board office to either be a freestanding building or an addition at the high school. So this option is a little bit more savings. So if you recall the last option, we're looking at about $1.2 million savings per year. With this option, it'd be a little over $1.3 million in savings per year. As if with that being the greatest when we start, and then as the buildings age and maintenance is going to happen, that will slowly decrease. That savings will slowly decrease over time. So the site plan is identical. That whether it's a pre-K 6 or pre-K 8, that we would have that clear separation between the car and the bus drop off. So parking for staff, for teachers, the administrators. Also parking for athletics. So if we're able to do softball or baseball fields for intramural events, that the parking can actually be there for those events. What we can also do with this option is if we do a separate administration for the middle school, is have a separate small parking lot for visitors. So they're also entering in at that administration for 6, 7, 8 if that decision goes forward. So really, from a design standpoint, the only real difference between the pre-K 6 and pre-K 8 is that this wing, and so would be the middle school wing. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade would all be housed inside of this wing, potentially with its own administration. That the majority of core classrooms are going to be here in 6, 7, 8. The only difference, or the only thing that would be shared between pre-K through 5 and 6, 7, 8 would be the cafeteria and the gymnasium. What we do have is the ability for the cafeteria is to have that as the littlest gym space. So we can use a rubberized floor that can not only be used for for phys ed class, but also you can put your cafeteria tables on it. It's a cleanable surface. And then the older grades, everything from 2nd grade up through 8th grade, can use the wood floor in the gym. That has both options have bleacher seating for up to 250. That could also be expanded all the way up to 500 if we want to put that many bleacher seating there. So we do have a lot of ability for a lot of seating in the gymnasium. So looking at the 2nd floor, we would be putting a 2nd floor above the pre-K K with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then the middle school wing would have 8th grade, and then their shared classes, the arts, science, and STEM classes could all be on the 2nd floor. So with the majority of time with those middle schoolers being spent in that wing by themselves. So with new construction, whether that's a pre-K 6 or pre-K 8, looking at the school, we have a lot of freedom to create a new school identity. What is the building going to look like? Is often a question that we get asked. It can be something that's a little more modern. Can be traditional. We can add color to the brick and have different blues and reds and greens. This is an elementary school. We can have a lot of fun on what that exterior could look like. It can have brick, it can have metal panel, you can have block, different types of lighting. You can see each one of these are different elementary schools that we've created over time. You can see none of them look anything alike. Because when you have a new building, so you have the freedom to create that identity and say, what does our new building, what does this want to look like? And what is our first impression when those students are coming in? We want their first impression of school to look like, both inside and out. You can go way outside of the box. It has something that is a postmodern with lots of different shapes on it and lots of different colors for the different bricks and block, on those facades. So we talked a little bit about where the site could be. And we've identified 3 good sites that are all options, all relatively within the same cost points. The first one is at the high school, and this would be located across the street from the high school from the athletic stadium. I believe so, called the Hog Farm. That is actually it's actually a really large, fantastic site in many ways. So that would be, to get you familiarized, this is the high school and the tech center. This is the bus garage with the water tower. This is your current stadium, and this would be just across the street. I believe it's roughly 46 acres, which is plentiful to be able to put a school and to get your parking, get some additional athletic fields. So this could be option number 1. Option number 2 could also be the same site. In this case, what we could look at is actually at the bus garage site, which is shown here. In which case we could develop the northern site as additional athletic fields. So this option is where. So if you're familiar with the water tower, it's actually located adjacent to the closed water tower, which is right here. And then the third option is actually here at the Totara site. So there's enough acreage behind the site to be able to construct the new elementary school, keep this building operational. You may not be able to see it. Is that this red line shows Totara Elementary? Is that what we do is construct the new building, get that completed in the springtime, and then over the summer this building can be demolished, and then create the parking and your bus drop off and car drop off at this site. Really, so all 3 of them have their pros and cons. As far as location goes, it definitely having them at the high school creates a campus and has all the students on one campus so that they can all share amongst the facilities. Having them here at this site does give you a little bit more freedom to have to expand the athletics options for your stadium at the high school site. And those are the when the project moves forward, all of those are going to be vetted and the pros and cons to make sure that we're giving the best recommendations on which is going to be the best site. And then the school board to make the final decision on where the elementary could be located for the pre-K 6 or pre-K 8. Okay. So that, wow, 38 minutes, that's probably my best time ever.
Sure, maybe a 5-minute break and then finish off the presentation.
Great, so we're going to take a 5-minute break. We need to, and kind of the people want to get a drink, and then we're gonna finish the presentation, and allow an opportunity for folks to be able to come up and speak for the time limit, and we look forward to hearing you. So please don't go anywhere.
Whenever he go to reassure, he takes it out.
Yeah, there's not a fight right there. So,
When he put that reassure like that. And the baby's going.
Everyone, if we could go ahead and find our seats. Mr. Bowers is going to go ahead and present the athletic options.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to talk about two athletic stadium options for this evening. Both of the options would be replacing the athletics on the current sites at the high school. Okay, so option A, so to get you familiar with where we are, is that the high school is down here, and your current athletic stadium, the bleachers sit along here, and then this is your grass and your track, and then you've got your baseball and softball. One of the things that is ideal from a field location standpoint is having both football and soccer on a north-south axis. So what we're showing is actually rotating the field 90 degrees. So that way it's on a north-south axis. So option A would look to, I'll replace it. Option A would look to put 2,000 seats in the bleachers. And that would be, we would look to see what the allocation is. It could be 1,800 and 200, or, but the 2,000 seats and a new press box. So that would be all new bleachers for both the home and the visitor side. Along with that would be the toilet rooms in order to be able to accommodate for that. So this would be men's and women's toilets. This option would also have team rooms for the teams to be able to start before practice and be able to go somewhere at halftime, and concessions. Now, what we found to be a cost-effective route is to put all of the toilet rooms, the concessions, and team rooms all underneath the bleachers. And what that allows us to do is to try to minimize the amount of impervious space, but also utilize the structure of the building itself as the structure for the bleachers. So the toilet rooms, locker rooms, all of those things would actually be underneath the home bleachers, and possibly even having storage underneath the visitors bleachers. This option would have synthetic grass. So your main football, soccer stadium would have a synthetic grass field, along with an 8-lane all-weather track. So that would allow you to host regional events at the facility. This would have new stadium lighting, walkways, ticket booths, New scoreboard. This would also include a replacement of the tennis courts. You can see the tennis courts are here. And then a new baseball and a new softball field. In this option, the baseball and the softball field would have the Diamondtex for the surface in the infield and natural grass in the outfield, along with bleacher seating for both baseball and softball. The idea with this complex is that we would kind of have one shared facility that baseball, softball, and the stadium would share the toilet facilities and concessions all in one complex that would be fenced in, is the idea. This concept has a cost range of about $7.3 to $8.8 million for the entire athletic complex. That we're replacing everything that you currently have with the new facility. This is option A. Option B looks at things just a little bit differently. So with this option, it would still be at the current stadium site with a new. This would be 2 synthetic grass fields. So this would be the stadium with your press box and home and visitor bleachers. The second on this field, we would house everything from football to soccer, lacrosse, whatever athletics, along with softball would also be located on this field. So softball would have a synthetic grass, would be synthetic grass also. The second synthetic grass field would be designed for football, soccer, all the traditional sports, and this one would have baseball on this field. So baseball would also be on synthetic grass field, along with with having bleacher facilities for that. New ticket booths, walkways, stadium lighting. So your 8-lane all-weather track, for those regional events. And also one thing to be clear is that both of the options are all of the track sports. So that is not just your track, but also pole vault, triple jump, long jump, discus, shot put. All of those track and field events would be included in both of the stadium options. This would also include the scoreboards and also replacement of the tennis courts. This option, because we're looking at 2 synthetic grass fields, not one, has a cost of $8.2 to about $9.9 million for this option. And so the reason for the additional cost is we're looking at two large synthetic grass fields for both game time and practice time. And also the other thing this option has is 2,500 seats. Along with the press box and the toilet facilities that are accommodated with it. So one thing I also want to stress is that with when we're looking at toilet rooms, there's something called that you may have heard is called potty parity. So what that means is that when we're looking at an assembly event for outdoor facilities, is that basically there's 2 girls' potties for 1 boy's potty. So if there's 18 boys, that means that there's 36 girls. So yes, hopefully I got some fans in that conversation, but that is required by code. So we're looking at these facilities that we would have twice as many women's toilets as we would have boys. There's also family toilets that's required, so there would be at least 1 family toilet that's required for the facility, if not 2, which means that if you have a child that is that's different than you are, that you can take them in and be able to use that facility without being in public. So with the 2 options, we're looking at both with 2 options for the athletic facilities, both of them being at the high school, and both of them being on the current athletic stadium site. So I believe that is it for my part of the presentation. I believe we're going to allow opportunity for folks to be able to speak and ask questions. I'll turn it over to Dr. Merced.
Okay, good evening again. You're going to see on the screen over here, Mrs. Pearson's. That's where the timer is. It'll make a little ding or noise at the end. We do ask if you still want to speak and you have not had an opportunity to sign up, that you just go see Mrs. Clary. When you come to the microphone, we put some wipes behind it. So once you're done, if you don't mind just wiping it off behind yourself after you speak. And I'm going to turn over to Mrs. Clary, and she'll go over the rules for the speaking.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to sign up to speak at the public forum will have 3 choices to participate. Submitting a response in writing to Mrs. Clary no later than 9 o'clock a.m. on the day of the meeting, submitting a voice recording to Mrs. Clary no later than 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting, or appearing in person on the day of the meeting. All questions will be collected and a complete list of answers will be available on the division website following the meeting. The school board welcomes public input and is encouraging participation in these public forums. Please be mindful of the time limitation in order to give everyone wishing to speak an opportunity. As a reminder, it is inappropriate at a public meeting to make personal attacks, to be defamatory, or to disparage individuals or identifiable groups. Before making your comments or questions, please state your name. There were several questions presented ahead of time. I'll read those first. Mr. Gene Wiley. Are the costs like engineering, architect fees, interest during construction, loan closing costs, and legal fees and consultant services included in the cost estimates to build a new school? Number 2, has the consultant discussed the process we need to go through to determine all items and options we may want to consider to build a new school and athletic complex? Mr. and Mrs. Gilliam. What renovations will there be for the high school, and if possible, please give details of renovations to the inside and the outside along with the timeline. Mr. Nelson Burchett.
Good afternoon. Nelson Burchett from Sturgeon District. I am in favor of the school transition. I do believe that it should be in the common area so that we can be similar to all the other counties that I've gone to see, probably 6, and have a common school complex. My concern is the dollar amount. The design that's being presented is shown in an elementary school structure as being the new window to Brunswick County. What happened to the high schools? I submitted a document in February of last year of possible design changes. And in that concept, we would have an elementary school and a high school with new designs. So that when you come to the county, you knew you were in something new in Brunswick County. So I think we need to consider that. The tax base is going to be a critical element because here we have most of our people of color, but we also have the other side of the community and the academy. So we have to take that into mind. So we need to be aware of the dollar amount that would be necessary to accomplish it and how the white population will fit into the picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett.
Mrs. Cheryl Revis.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cheryl Revis. My question is more so regarding with the design of the classrooms. Considering today's time where we have persons who are not really affiliated with the reality world and having protection for our students, our classrooms will be designed so that there is a safe spot inside the classroom should there ever be a lockdown with an intruder with many weapons. So I know our outside is really full of a lot of glass. I understand we have these blinds that come down, but is there a place that's going to be built inside the classroom so our kids and teachers can be safe until it is clear that the intruder may be apprehensive or apprehended or what. I know some older schools or older classrooms were built like, some have classrooms, have bathrooms in there. That would be a safe place to hide, but it depends on the size of the classrooms. Another place that some classrooms are built, they have somewhat like cinder block partitions inside the classroom that would be considered a barrier and away from the exterior door, the door to the classroom. That was one of my main concerns. And the other one concern, with our campus that big, whether it's going to be with the 2 levels, where will you strategically place, this might sound weird, your elevators? Because you might have older teachers who might not be able to navigate all those steps. So I think that would be something important, in my opinion, to think about. The safeness of the classrooms, is there a safe place inside, and your strategic placement of your elevators?
Thank you. Myra Winfield.
Good evening, everyone. As stated, I'm Myra Winfield. I've been living in Brunswick County all of my life. I've been attending, and I've attended several Zoom sessions pertaining to the building of the new school. I've attended the session when the board of supervisor had concerned citizens. And as an educator for 27 years, I agree. I've taught in Brunswick County for 10 years. We do need a new school, and I'm not saying that we don't. I just think that financially, we need to consider all the accolades that are coming with it. As far as the building itself, I have 2 questions. Oh Lord, I hope you don't. My concern is about the sports complex. Putting that much money into a sports complex, I'm just asking, has there been any research about how that's going to affect our students? I know that you're thinking about scholarships, you're thinking about, I'm asking the question, have you researched and done, how many of our students really go to pros? How many receive sports scholarships? Those are things, when you put a $2,000 complex onto a field and or 2,000 seating facility, can we adequately house or handle that type of, well, we don't have as many students here in the county. Some of my other concerns would be, have we talked about stocking building? Are those fees included to maintain and have our equipment stocked so that the school is ready to go into? $8 million is a lot. I wanted to know about option 2 seems to be something that is not something we should consider, because putting 8th graders, puberty years, there are enough problems with our kids, and to put our elementary kids in the same school with those upper level kids would not be an option for me to consider. I'd like to know what would happen to the middle school. I think that's something that we haven't considered. Is it going to be demolished? Is it going to become a historical site? That's an issue that our Brunswick County citizens need to start considering and thinking about as we talk about closing it. I just think that when you compare 7 million to 8 million, 7 million for a school, 8 million for a sports facility, we're putting more into sports than we are our kids' academic achievement. I have some time. I was trying to run through my information. I hope I covered it all, but I do want us to think that we've got to think smarter. And I agree we need a sports facility, but as far as the money that's going into it, we need to come down to a minimum, not the goal, not shoot for the goal, but maybe bronze or something that's within reason. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else that signed up to speak. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
And we didn't have any additional questions that were submitted electronically?
No, ma'am, I read those at the beginning.
Yes, I do want to recap for everyone. We did note your questions, and by the end of the week, we will post that on the division website, and we'll send that information out to everyone with the answers.
I would just like to take a minute and thank everyone for just coming out tonight, the ones that got up and voiced their concerns. Very good questions. And we'll definitely get you some answers on that. It won't be tonight, but we will get you the answers. Thank everyone again. I mean, I appreciate it. And I really look forward to this. You know, our kids are just so important. I mean, I'm not telling you anything that every one of you here don't know. If you didn't care about your students or your kids, I don't even have kids in schools here anymore. But our kids are just our most important natural resource that we'll ever have. And they're just so important, not just the county, but the country. So just again, thank you for taking your time to come out tonight. If you have missed a question, you have other ways to get our questions. We still have the meetings in Heron Howard and in the Red Oak. So you still have other ways to get your questions out. So again, thank you all so very much for coming tonight. Just be safe going home. Appreciate your time. Very nice.